Hello everyone, and welcome to Uglesoft's third Python keystrokes and hotkeys tutorial. Today we're going to go over desktop notifications and make a function that will generate passwords for us. Before we dive into all of that, you may notice that a few things look different. I am using Windows 11 on a new machine. My last computer was fried in an electrical storm, which is part of the reason this video is delayed. I apologize for that, but I'm looking forward to making more in the future. I'm also using a new theme extension, which is called Dracula Official. So if you like what you see, go ahead and download it if you're using Visual Studio Code, of course. But that's not going to affect how we actually write and run our Python file. It's still going to be the same regardless. Windows 10, Windows 11 themes are totally superficial. Just wanted to call it out in case you were curious. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and start adding to our Python file. Let's start with notifications. The first thing that we're going to want to do is open up a terminal. So I'm using Control-Shift-tilde. You can also create a terminal here, new terminal. And from here, we want to use pip install plyr, plier. From plier, we want to use one of the things that they have in their module library to send to the desktop some notifications. So if we could click enter, I already have it installed. It might take a little bit for you guys, but it's pretty quick on most machines. So now that we have that on our machine, we can from plier import notification. And now this is going to let us use a very simple small structure to send notifications to the desktop. Now we're ready to put some notifications in some of our functions. So let's start with email footer. Down here we're going to do notification if you can spell, dot notify, and then parentheses. Now we got to expand these parentheses a bit. There's a few things we need to add in here. Title with an equal sign, and then we can pass in a string followed by a comma. Next we're going to do message equals string, comma. It's just a string, double quotes twice. App underscore icon equals comma, and the last thing is timeout equals integer. We'll just put 1. So timeout is going to be the total amount of time that the notification stays up and visible. Unfortunately, on Windows machines, the minimum is 5 seconds. I tried to override this at a very low level in the operating system, but it looks like the minimum is 5 seconds even if you manually override it. So you'll get to see what that looks like when we send this notification there. So what do we want to add for a title? Let's do Keystrokes program, the app that it's coming from. That makes a lot of sense. And then for the message here, how about the email footer function has been initiated. Something descriptive to say that our function has started off. App icon, we can use an image file that has a .ico extension to create a little face on our notification. We're going to leave that blank for now. We might come back to it depending on how well this goes, but let's try running this and see what happens. So we're going to save this, kill this terminal, and run the Python script. Let's go over to our text file. We'll just delete everything, and we're going to try 0ef. Okay, so keystrokes program. The email footer function has been initiated, and it completed the function normally. Let's head on back to the keystrokes. We sent a notification here at the beginning, but let's do one at the end as well, because the main motivation behind these notifications is to let me know when it's completed so that I can get back to working on my machine. Let's put the notification first, followed by the print. That makes a lot of sense, I think. And the email footer function has been completed rather than initiated. We'll hit save, kill this terminal, and rerun it. Let's head back to our text. Delete, Control A to select everything, and then delete. Now 0ef, one more time. There we go. Okay, so it says the email footer function has been initiated. That's going to be up here for a little while before it goes away on its own. which is something we have to work around a little bit. In fact, it's going to sit there for a long time. 5 seconds feels like such a long time sometimes. And there's the email footer function has been completed. So as you can see, the email footer function was completed a long time ago, but the notification that started it was blocking the completion notification. So for that reason, I recommend that you only put notifications at the end of the functions. That way you can deal with the length of time that they're going to be up there for. So let's just comment this out, or delete it completely, in fact. If you want to comment it out, let me show you. You can press Control/. Visual Studio Code is very good at figuring out what the comment characters are for most languages and just adding those on all the lines selected. But we'll delete it, leave it removed since we know we won't need it. And we're going to go ahead and copy all of this and put it at the end of this function as well. Now, if you have a lot of functions like I do, it might be troublesome to go and change them all every single time. Like this one, email footer function's been completed. Let's say I go ahead and get a .icon file. I'd have to go through every single notification on here and change the actual file that it's referencing if the file name changes. And I don't really like doing that. I want to make things a bit more convenient. So we're going to define a function that takes one argument, and that argument is going to be the name of the function it's called within. And then we can call that function from anywhere in this program. So we can call it here, we can call it later on as well. And if we need to change any of the details about the timeout or the title or the message structure, we only have one place where we need to make those changes that affect everything. So let's get through that right now. We're going to copy all of this, move up to a new function that we need to define. Let's actually put this above the controller, just to distinguish it. So def notif_end. That's what I'm going to call it. That seems to make sense to me. And unlike other functions, now that we've pasted this in, we're not going to leave these parentheses blank. We're going to add a variable called function name. And that's going to be essentially an argument request. Anytime this function is called within the program, it's going to know that it needs at least one argument. And so we can use that variable that we pass in the function itself. So the way that that works is we're going to add another double quote here. And where is the plus sign at? I think it's right there. Perfect. So we're going to enclose that, change this to function name, add another plus sign, and add another set of double quotes. So this is taking this string enclosed in double quotes, concatenating the variable that's passed in, and then also concatenating the function has been completed. I think it might be concatenating. I don't exactly know how to pronounce things. That's one of the funniest things about software development and tech in general is you finally meet someone face to face and talk about something and you're both pronouncing it totally differently because you've always just seen it on paper for the most part. But concatenating, however it's pronounced, it's the taking of multiple strings and adding them onto each other on the same line. And then maybe you store them as a variable or something like that. But we're just going to pass the function name variable into here. Keystrokes program, function has been completed. So notif_end function name. Let's add the use of this function to the end of our other functions. So instead of needing all of this stuff every single time, we'll just copy email footer, because that's what this function is called. We're going to go ahead and tab this in a little bit. Double quotes to pass in the name, and we're going to copy that, head all the way down here, paste it, and call this, let's actually do that, Google Workspace. Now we can kill this terminal, rerun it, and see what happens. Okay, let's head over here, Control-Alt-Delete, and start the email footer function. Alright, so it was called, it was completed, and it sent me a notification upon completion, which popped up instantly at the right time. because I know when the program starts when I press the hotkey, and now I know when the program ends, even if I'm looking away, because of the desktop notification. Let's look at that notification real quick. As you can see, the email footer function has been completed, and there was no initiation notification. Couple specs to keep in mind for this password generator. You can change them if you want for yourself, but these are the minimum requirements I have for passwords that are generated with this function. They need to be at least 16 characters long, no longer, no more, no less. That's the standard that I like to hold them to. It's just a good number. Seems like it's more than enough for strong passwords, and I like it because it's an exponent of 2. But it also needs to have at least one number, one special character, one lowercase letter, and one uppercase letter. And the rest of the characters can be whatever within reason as far as keyboards go. But those are the specs I'm going to be programming into my password generator. If you have different requirements, then you can modify it as needed. But just wanted you to be able to keep those in mind as we actually create the function. But let's get some of the architecture for this function taken care of first. There's a few import statements we need to use. We're going to import string, and we're going to from random import rand range. So that stands for random range, meaning we can pick a random number between some specified values. So those are the imports necessary for our password generator. We're also going to create a new print that says what we're after here. So we're going to do G and P for generate password. We're also going to, well, create the function, of course, def generate password. We don't want to put anything in here yet. We're just going to do a pass. That's in Python, pass means do nothing. You can't leave it blank because then it'll throw an error. But if you say pass, then it'll just do nothing. It knows that you didn't make an error and that you're trying to define a function that has nothing in it. So you can use that if you want a placeholder for something. So let's copy this, and I'm going to add a comma here and add another hotkey. I don't like that pop-up, so we'll move that back a little. This one is going to G, it's going to be G plus P for generate password, and then we're just going to call the function generate password. So if you ever need to add hotkeys and functions, this is how you do it. You just follow the syntax that's already there and add another hotkey. I think I have, how many do I have on my other program, I wonder? It's like, oh goodness, what is that? Over 12. I think I have 13 different functions that you can call, so there's really, you can expand a lot with this, which I love. But now that we have our print statement and our hotkey and function definition, we can start using these imports and actually generating the password and sending it to the terminal. So the first thing we're going to need is a set of variables. We're going to have, well, of course we're going to need the print statement. Let's paste that in really quick before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Generate password, and after that we have password raw, which equals nothing, it's empty. And then we have password underscore shuffled equals nothing. So those are our two variables. We're going to generate a password that has a bunch of characters in it with the minimum requirements, and then we're going to shuffle it in order, in terms of order. You know, we're going to mix them all up in terms of direction, because you'll get to see why that's necessary as we keep moving along. So then we need to define characters. So that's going to equal string dot ascii. I believe it's lowercase. Yeah, lowercase plus string dot ascii uppercase plus string dot punctuation. So this is going to be a master string that contains lowercase, uppercase, and punctuation within it, and it's called characters. So let's show you what these actually look like with some print statements along the way. We're going to print out, oh goodness, what? Characters. And that'll be the end of the function. So let's go ahead and try running it so you can see what we're actually looking at here. String.ascii lowercase, it all can be kind of intimidating, so 0gp. Alright, so as you can see, it printed out all of this stuff, all the lowercase letters, all the uppercase letters, and then all of the special characters that exist. But you might have noticed numbers aren't in here. Now, I haven't found a good library or module that has a set of digits for us with all of the numbers from 0 through 9 listed out like this module does. But we can add those manually pretty easy. So let's plus, and we'll make our own string of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Because that's all the digits there is. We don't want to do 10 because that's just 2 digits, 1 and 0, which are both in here already. So let's save that, kill this, and run it one more time. Now you can see that we have all of the digits available as well. So it's got lowercase, uppercase, special characters, and numbers, which is the master pool of characters we do want to be pulling from when we generate our password randomly. So that's good. So now you can see that it has all of the digits from 0 to 9 in addition to the lowercase, uppercase, and special characters. This is good. This is the master list of characters we want to pull from when we randomly generate our passwords. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can start generating the rest of the password. And the way we want to do that is by defining or redefining password raw. We're going to add 4 characters to this, 4 predetermined characters. And the order for that, which doesn't really matter, but the way that you can do it and the way that I do it involves string.ascii underscore lowercase. So we're going to start with lowercase. And then from there, we need to add regular brackets. And then we're going to use the rand range. So rand range is going to take an integer in and generate an integer randomly within that range. So if we give it like a value of 5, it'll pick a digit at random. And the options, because we passed in 5, are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, because that includes 5 numbers. So we're not actually going to pass in an actual integer. We're going to determine what integer to use based on the length, so len, of string.ascii lowercase. All right, so this is starting to look a little bit complicated, but when you use regular brackets on a string, it'll go and grab a specific character from that particular string. So let's show you what that looks like. We're going to do string.ascii lowercase, and we're going to use angle brackets. Let's just do 3. We're just going to print that out. Print, and we'll go to the end, add the other parentheses. You'll see that on a new line. So let's kill this, run it one more time. 0gp. Okay, so the third item here was the letter D. Now, you might say, no, that's the 4th item. Well, the way that arrays work in programming in general, but Python as well, the first item is a 0. The second item is a 1. Third item is a 2. Fourth item is a 3. The arrays always start at digit 0. So that's not going to really affect us because we're not passing anything in manually. But what you need to know is that we're taking the length of this, figuring out a random number within that range, and then grabbing that number specifically. So the very first character in our password raw variable is going to be a random letter from the lowercase group of characters. Let's add the rest of our predetermined characters in the password raw. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to add, which means that it'll just stack on to the end of the string. Let's give it a new line to make it a little bit easier to read here. And we're going to copy that as well 2 more times. So now we're going to have 4 random lowercase items in our password raw. Let's just get rid of this and print out password raw to show you what that looks like. We'll kill this and run it one more time. Now we need to change this, but just for now I'm going to show you. Type error. Bad operand for type unary plus string. Alright, so maybe it doesn't like the line break. See, this is one of the things about development. You gotta try random things. Or maybe not random, but try new things all the time to see if it fixes it. So we're gonna put this all on one big line, save it, and run it one more time. See if that helps. Let's see what we got here. And it looked like it worked. So as you can see, we've got lowercase m, v, y, and q. Those were randomly selected from the string ASCII lowercase pool, which is this set of characters right here. Obviously, you know what the lowercase alphabet looks like, or I would at least hope so. But we don't want 4 lowercase items. We want a lowercase, an uppercase, a special character, and a number. So we're going to change this second one here to ASCII uppercase. And we're going to do the same thing here. And then in here, what is it called again? I believe it's string.punctuation. Yeah. So we're going to go and change that to string.punctuation and string.punctuation. Now, the last thing we need to do, instead of just using this manually, let's make a variable called, let's do digits equals that. So now instead of printing this string out manually, we can replace it with the variable digits every time. So we'll do digits, and then for this very last one, we want to replace that with digits and digits. So let's run this one more time, and we'll actually stop the printing of characters. So we're going to comment that out, and it won't be executed. Let's run this one more time, 0GP. Okay, so we got a lowercase letter, the first item, which is a Q, an uppercase letter, which is a capital R, a special character, which is the pound symbol or hashtag, and then our digit is the letter, or the number 3. Hopefully I can tell my numbers and letters apart. But now that we have at least one of each of the types of characters we want in our password, we can go ahead and make a loop that will flesh out the other, what would it be, 14 characters? No, what am I talking about? 12 characters. I can't do basic math. Because we want 16 total characters. To take the 4 that are already there, add 12 more, that's how you get 16. So we're going to make a little loop for that, and it will not pick from specific groups. It's going to actually pick from the character's master string. So it'll randomly select one thing out of lowercase, uppercase, special characters, and numbers all together, picking from like one big list, because we want to just assemble it randomly. We don't want fixed numbers of things in there, because that makes our passwords easier to predict. So the way that you make a loop in Python is very straightforward, just like the rest of the language. Now that we've got our first 4 characters in password raw, we're going to do for x in range. And let's do 12. After that, we need a colon, so that everything within the indent is going to be defined within the loop, just like the way that everything indented this way is defined within the function. What we need to do is password raw equals password raw plus characters, and then we got to do our angle bracket or regular angle brackets, rand range and length parentheses characters. So what this is going to do is 12 times, so for x and 12, that means it's going to execute 12 times. Everything inside of here will happen 12 times. It's going to take the password raw variable, it's going to add one item from the character's master string at random, and then save itself. So the first time it'll do it, it'll be 5 characters long. second time 6, and it's going to do that until, upon the last iteration, password raw will have 16 characters in it. So let's let that execute, and we will print out password raw afterwards, and I will show you. We should have 16 characters in there. Hopefully there aren't any errors. Okay, so let's count this out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm so bad at visual counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got another 4, and then CCI at is the last 4. So that's going to be 16 characters total. So this loop is correct. We're not using this variable x. You don't need to use it. We just have to call it out so that way it reads the loop properly. But now that we have our password created and all of the characters selected, what we need to do is shuffle that password, because currently every single time the first character is going to be lowercase, the second character is going to be uppercase, third character is going to be special. We don't want any predictability in our passwords, so we need to shuffle this up randomly so that you have no idea about any of the characters at any of the locations. And so the way we're going to do that is with another loop. We're going to do for x in range, and this time we're going to pass in the length of password raw, if I can find the underscore there. And then everything inside of here will be iterated a total number of 16 times, assuming that our password raw is 16 characters long, which it should be, unless something really crazy happens. So the first thing we need to do is define a variable called index. Index is going to be equal to random range length password raw. Okay, so we're just picking a number between 1 and 16 the first time. We're going to be trimming down password raw so that number range will get smaller and smaller every time. But to start out, it'll be 1 through 16, or 0 through 15 for a total number of 16 values. Then after that, we want to take password shuffled, which we haven't used yet. We want to equal password shuffled plus password raw. No, we got to password raw, and we want to pass in index. So because index is an integer, we can pass it in. Let's say that this random range turns out a value of 11. So we save index with a value of 11. We can pass in index here to grab the 11th character in password raw. Now that we've updated our password shuffled, we don't want to call the same characters multiple times, so we need to remove that character that we just added into the password shuffled from the password raw. So we're going to do password raw equals password raw, and we got to do brackets. So this is going to be kind of interesting. 0 colon index plus password raw brackets parentheses index plus 1, and then we add another colon. So this is a lot of syntax, but what this is doing, let's go with the 11th character, we'll just assume that password raw is going to be overridden with a new string that includes the first character up to the 11th character plus the 12th character onward. So we're taking the existing string, and we're going to take everything before and after the character, add them together, and then resave it as password raw. So that way the character at the index disappears from it, basically. We loop over this enough times until password raw is gone, and all of them have been moved into password shuffle at a random sort of sorting mechanism. You know, you grab them from all over the place and then just stack them in a new order, and that's going to generate our completed password. It's going to guarantee that it has one of each of the types of characters we want, but it won't guarantee where they are in the password. So let's go ahead and do a print password shuffled. we'll leave that extra space in there for now. We're going to save it, and we will run it. I'm going to execute this like maybe 5 or 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of these, you can see the first letter, or the first character here is lowercase, the first character here is uppercase, the first character here is a special character, and they all have at least one of each of the 4 main types of characters, which is really good. That's exactly what we want. It'll meet all the criteria. It will be really hard to crack and guess. I mean, the odds that you're going to be able to guess this are like basically 0. And we've got a really secure password here, but it's pretty hard to read in the terminal. So let's make it a little bit easier to grab it. Because what I typically do is find this in the terminal, and then I maybe write it down somewhere secure, or I paste it right into a text file. But I want to make it easier to see and read. So let's go ahead and grab that. What we need to do is define a variable called bar. Bar is equal to an empty string. I call this bar because I like to do a series of equal signs that are like 32 of them next to each other, and then I print them out because I think it looks nice. So for x in range 32, colon, we're going to go ahead and say that bar is equal to bar plus the equal sign. And then in the end, the bar variable is going to have 32 equal signs next to each other. So we can print that out to make to make everything a little bit easier to, we don't want those in the loop, so we got to pull those out. If I left it indented, so it would have executed 16 times. We don't need that. So we're going to have print bar, and then password shuffled, and then we're going to do another print bar afterwards. So let's save that, kill it, and see if this is slightly easier to read. Much better. So generated password called. We've got some equal signs to show, hey, here's what you're after, and then we've got the next one, so it's really easy to tell right where the password is at. I like that. It looks a lot better that way. So anytime you're working with terminal, those characters go a long ways towards readability. And it looks like we're all finished. The password function is completed, and it's working properly, and we are sending desktop notifications successfully. So that's going to be it for this tutorial. As always, if you guys come up with something cool that you want to share, please, I'd love to see it. I clearly can't come up with every single idea in the world, so I'm sure there's all kinds of things that you could make with a hotkey assistant like this that haven't crossed my mind yet. So feel free to let me know. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and as always, thanks for watching.